6 strategies to infer an author's hidden message. Writers don't always spell out everything in a story. Instead, they often hint at events, describe settings vaguely, or suggest character traits without directly stating them. Sometimes, they communicate subtle ideas, like whether the narrator can be trusted, the theme of the passage, or even their own attitudes. Because of this, you'll need to infer to fully grasp the story and the writer's intentions. Use what you already know about the world to make sense of the details in the story. Pay close attention to imagery, structure, and other style choices, and think about the reasons behind them. Always back up your inferences with evidence from the text. Let's see how we can do this. Look for what is not said. Sometimes what the author leaves out is just as important as what is included. Pay attention to the gaps or missing details in the story, like unspoken feelings or events, and think about why the author might have left them out. This will help you infer the underlying meaning or message. Example: in The Great Gatsby, the author never directly tells us how Gatsby made his fortune. The omission makes readers question his integrity and infer that his wealth might have come from illegal activities. By not stating it outright, the author leaves room for us to piece it together based on hints and dialogue. Consider the narrator's reliability. Ask yourself if the narrator seems trustworthy or biased. A narrator's attitude or perspective can reveal clues about what the author is trying to say. If the narrator is unreliable, you may need to question what's presented and infer the truth. Example: in Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, the narrator repeatedly insists that he is not mad, but his erratic behavior and obsession with the old man's eye suggest otherwise. Readers infer that the narrator is unreliable, and we question everything he says about his actions and motives. Pay attention to imagery and symbolism. Authors often use imagery or symbols to communicate deeper messages. Look for recurring images or objects in the story that might represent larger ideas. For example, a storm could symbolize conflict, or a rose could represent love. Example: in Lord of the Flies, the conch shell represents order and civilization. As the story progresses, the shell's importance fades, symbolizing the boy's descent into chaos. Even though the author never says society is breaking down, readers infer this from the imagery of the conch losing its power. Examine the structure of the story. The way a story is organized can tell you a lot about its meaning. Think about why the author chose to tell the story in a certain order or from a particular point of view. How does this structure affect your understanding of the events or themes? Example: in The Catcher in the Rye, Holden Caulfield tells the story in a disjointed, non-linear way, jumping between memories and thoughts. The fragmented structure helps readers infer Holden's emotional instability and confusion, even though he never admits to feeling lost or unsure. Use your background knowledge. Bring in what you know about the world to interpret what's happening in the story. If a character behaves in a certain way, or if a setting has particular characteristics, relate that to real-life situations or cultural contexts to better understand what the author is hinting at. Example: in To Kill a Mockingbird, the setting of the segregated South in the 1930s provides important context. Understanding the history of racism in America helps readers infer Why the trial of Tom Robinson is unfair, even though the author doesn't always explicitly say so. Look for repeated themes or ideas. If an idea, word, or image keeps showing up, it's likely important. Repetition often signals the author's central theme or message, helping you infer what the author is emphasizing. Example: in Of Mice and Men, the repeated image of George and Lenny talking about their dream of owning a farm suggests a theme of unattainable goals. The more they talk about the dream, the more readers infer that it may never be realized, highlighting the novel's underlying message about the difficulty of achieving the American dream.